Sport is superstition, science, family, drama, love, theatre. It's everything. That's why we've made a betting brand for sports fans that's better. Gamble responsibly.
Time to talk AFC, and the Chiefs for the fifth year in a row get through to the Conference Championship game, and it is a repeat of last year, James, where the Bengals surprised everyone and beat Kansas. The line actually favours the spread actually favours the Bengals at the moment. It's small. I think by the time we get to game time, it's going to be even. Both teams. It's a very even game. A couple of points to talk about. Mahomes' ankle is the big one. That's the talking point. Is he going to be 100% fit? Is that why there's a bit of a spread towards the Bengals?
100%. Like if you can't bank on Pat Mahomes just being Patrick Mahomes, then that's where you're going to see that spread move back towards the Bengals. Because the way that they proved that their defense is solid enough to sort of deal with like the Buffalo Bills like they did last week, but also more importantly, their O-line standing up to that Bills defense was more impressive basically than anything I think to come out of that game. But with Mahomes hobbled, like that's almost going to swing the line completely, because if he's on one leg, if he's the three-step drop turns into the three-hop drop, Matty.
The three-hop drop.
It's going to be a little bit harder to win that one, I reckon. But that's why you see this one get so tight before the sort of game time.
Is that a dance in the Clements family at Christmas, the three-hop drop? I'd like to see that a little bit later on. Let's get back to Freddie. Freddie, all the talk about is the quarterbacks here. But I got a funny feeling, yes, they're both great quarterbacks and they'll have good games. I got a funny feeling, though, it's going to be the best defence who puts quickest or bigger pressure on those quarterbacks that'll win this game.
They're going to put so much pressure on Mr. Mahomes that he is going to want to call all the dogs, call any help emergency that he can get, because they're going to pressure him. They're going to test that ankle out right away. And think about it. All of the highlights that you have from Patrick Mahomes, he's running and making things happen, and he's buying extra time. He's not going to have that now. He's going to have to do something, and Andy Reid's going to have to go back and evaluate his situation. And if they can beat Mahomes healthy, pretty good chance they can beat him hurt.
Yeah, I like that theory, because I'm big on the Bengals for this game, and I think they can do that, given the fact that, as Freddie just said, they've beaten them 3 in a row, including that game last year we talked about, but this season they've beaten them. And Joe Burrow has said this is a more complete team than last year. They surprised us last year, but there's a bit of self-belief that they've got Kansas' measure. Yeah,
it's weird that they're Kansas City's kryptonite.
Yeah, well, if you like.
It really is. That's the exact sort of team setup that Kansas City just find really hard, because they're just so balanced across each of their lines. And, I mean, this is the best offense in the league, this Chiefs team. Like, they're absolutely explosive. But as Freddie's just talked about, right, like, if you're being just constantly harassed and, like, being played off your game, then it makes it really hard. But my favourite part of this is, Matty, this is where we learn. This is the sports movie montage. We see Pat Mahomes' ankle do these ones, and then he comes back and still gets through to the Super Bowl.
Probably does.
Even wins it. But I think we learn a lot about Mahomes in this game, because Freddie talks about how he's always sort of moving in the pocket, running around, scrambling, just creating something from nothing. We also did see in the second half last week him just being able to control the pace of that game, which I thought was really important for them winning down the stretch against the Jags. And the way that he was able to just go, I don't have a leg, but I'll throw a jump pass. What do you think? It's just, he's so inventive and so crazy and so good that, look, if you can just keep finding Travis Kelce underneath, like, you're going to be making hay while the weather is sunny, I guess we say. And but it was incredible to see. And I think the Bengals can slow him down, obviously. But this offense is so good and so multifaceted. I kind of still like KC a bit, but anyway.
You were talking about doesn't have a leg. It made me think of an old Monty Python sketch. Oh, just grow back then, will it? But it doesn't. Freddie, you talked about tight ends, plan Bs. Kelsey's plan A for Patrick Mahomes. Comes off 14 receptions last week, 2 touchdowns. We know what he's capable of. Can they stop Kelsey?
I don't think I think actually, you know what? They can stop Kelce. They did 3 games before this, so they can't stop him. And what James was saying about, the how he was able to control the game and stuff like that. He controlled the game against the Jacksonville Jaguars, which should have been a gimme win, which me and James picked. So it's going to be a hard task because everybody knows who's getting the ball now. You don't have the receiver that they had last year to go in and do that. But I mean, it's going to be a hard game, and I don't see Kansas City being able to come out of this.
Is there any stats that back up that are important about the Chiefs, apart from how good Patrick is on one leg or two?
I mean, they are 8-1 at home. It's still pretty good. Yeah. Like, that's kind of one of those things where you go, yeah, they're just really good at Arrowhead. And I think you've seen this defense be really sort of middling a lot of this year for Kansas City, but then really crank up the noise
up towards the end,
in the second half. And that's kind of going to be the thing, right? So with this Cincinnati offensive line, they stood up pretty well against Buffalo last week. I think we see a really good defensive showing from Kansas City. I think they've been so good basically since about the start of December defensively that this is sort of like the game where it's all on the line. But if you want some stats there, Matty,
I'll tell you what.
We've mentioned this, the touchdowns and tight ends. 3 is how many Cincinnati gave up this year to tight ends. 3.
Is that all?
It's amazing. So,
this could be the game right there.
This could be the game because, as Freddie's talked about, if they can't get it to Kelsey, then Kansas City probably going to be in trouble. But I mean, the Bengals have won 4 of their last 5 as an underdog in January. That's like that classic stat because that's all they did last year. They just rolled through teams. Yeah. They're doing it again. They passed 7 against teams that have winning records. Won their past 8 against other teams from the AFC. Like, Cincinnati just look dangerous. They look scary. They've beaten the Chiefs 3 straight, obviously. Thing is, bottom 10.
There's a big butt coming.
Bottom 10 against the pass as well, though. So I just sort of see Mahomes just sort of getting enough. And I think this defense just puts enough pressure on them that the Kansas City Chiefs at home just ride that wave of emotion and just sneak out the win.
You're Kansas. I'm Cincinnati. It's 1-1 here in Australia, Freddie. Give us your tip.
I'm going Cincinnati.
Yes!
High ankle sprain. I mean, I can't do it. And you got to understand, the Bengals, they understand what happened to them last year. They're like a woman scorned. They're never going to forget that. So they still have paybacks. The Kansas City Chiefs, they don't have any paybacks. They've been there. They've been to the game, and they've ate. They're not hungry dogs anymore. I really think Cincy's going to win this game.
I'm with Freddie. So it's 2 against 1, James. But what about a same-game multi for us?
Well, I think, first off, I think we see a reverse of last year's score, 27-24, KC. But the same game, I think Kelsey still gets in for 1 touchdown. I think his yards go the under. But the touchdown for Kelsey, Jamar Chase finds the end zone again. I think he and Burrow, that connection is absolutely special going all the way back to LSU. But also Burrow, 300-plus passing yards. I think they sort of just run out of running options and just try to sling it. That receiving corps of Cincinnati is absolutely next level. Kansas City, I mean, they'll try to slow them down, but Cincinnati's receivers are really good, so I think he gets to the 300 passing yards, but the Chiefs just eke out that win. So I think Kelsey anytime touchdown, Chase touchdown, Burrow 300-plus yards. I'd steer clear of the Mahomes passing yards as well, though, because you just don't know about that ankle.
It's exactly right. Freddie, great to have you on the program as always. We look forward to talking to you next week. And also, given the fact that Jaymz has gone against you, we look forward to you coming out, and whoever wins that game, someone can shout lunch.
Absolutely. And James, if Burrow throws for 300 passing yards, he's going to win that game. The 300 passing yards, he is going to win. I can't wait for next week. This is the beauty of sports. You get to find out who's going to win, who's right, and who's wrong. I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you, Freddie. Freddie Mitchell joins us, as always, from Philadelphia as we get closer and closer to the Super Bowl. Just before we go, if you had to pick now with 4 left to try and, sort of inch in early, get in early as far as who wins the Super Bowl, who would you pick right now?
Probably still the Niners. If I'm going to pick them to beat the Eagles, I think the winner comes out of the NFC this year.
I'm going the Bengals, and no surprise there that I've jumped on the bandwagon, the Burrow bandwagon. Thanks, Matt, as always.
My pleasure, Matty. This is great.
Yep, it is great to be talking NFL with Jaymz Clements, and of course, Freddie Mitchell will be back next week. You can subscribe below or follow us on socials, and hope you've enjoyed Fox Sports Lab NFL. The Super Bowl's not far away.
The betting brand for sports fans. That's better. Gamble responsibly.